सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Okay, so we continue to revise chapter 11. Mukku and Gunds and who else today? Mukku, Gunds, and Subbu. Yeah, three. We have three people already on the bridge today. And then, of course, Spurti said that she will also be revising today. So we'll have four, plus my short, summary to the objections what I received. So maybe, what I would do is, Mukku, if that's okay with all of you, I'll take maybe 5 minutes and then hand it over to you because I may have to leave a little earlier. Okay. So I'll just take 5 minutes and then I'll leave.
Yeah, I think maybe you, then Subbu can go next. Subbu will cover the rest of us.
Yeah. So before that, was there any, I know that I concluded the last session without, giving enough time for any questions for anybody on my presentation. And I know, Peta, you had a question. So do you want to ask anything, any question, anybody for me on my presentation before I go to the objections what I received?
Where did the critique come from?
It came from somebody in the group.
In what? In this
group. Yeah.
Okay. How did you feel about the page I copied from Swami Dayananda's book on the cosmic vision relative to the statements said here?
Very apt. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that what Swamiji says contradicts this here, this critique.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, the objections, I shared it in advance because I didn't want to spend a lot of time to explain the objections. So I hope that all of you have gone through this. And there was one mistake which Subbu corrected in this, which is 11.55 was not Manmanabhava Mad Bhakta, it was Mat Karma Mukrun Mat Paramaha. I corrected that. So my point is like this, right? My point is, I'm not saying that if you truly draw the boundary of chapter 11, that I went outside of the boundary, that is correct. But why? Let's understand the purpose of this revision, what we're trying to do. The purpose of this revision is to basically to figure out how there is a framework and how we're going to use the particular framework in your daily life. And sometimes we would present what we would already doing as part of our daily life practical framework, how you're using the particular practical framework in your practical life, or sometimes how you would want to intend to do because you're not doing it, you're intending to. So one of the two things. Second thing is, I really personally don't want to miss out the beauty of the forest and what is beyond the forest by looking at only the trees. Okay, trees are important, no doubt about it. But the forest is much more important. And even beyond the forest, it is much more important. So at any point of time, irrespective of where we are in, I personally feel that the goal, the human goal of what that moksha is and what that state is, the description that's been given in our scriptures should not be forgotten. The basis on which this entire world is built upon should not be forgotten. Okay. Now, the question why the objection why Nirvana Shatakam is all about Aikyam, you should not be using it. I personally think that the people should think of it as this way, right? I use Nirvana Shatakam, Nirvana Ashtakam as a daily reinforcement of my practice. Now, what does it say? Okay, it basically says that you are not this, but you are that. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that chapter 11 is it's not related to Aham Brahmasmi concept. It is about introducing the Ishvara in all his or her glory. I understand that. But then that's one step towards the larger goal of where one needs to go. Now, combining with 2.69, where in 2.69 it says the differentiation in the vision between a Gnani and an Agnani, it's explained in that. Now, if for a Gnani, chapter 11 is immaterial. it doesn't matter, or any of the scriptures doesn't matter for a gnani. But for a sadhaka, what is the natural state of a gnani is what is the sadhana for the sadhaka. So from that perspective, before we go to 2.69, you should look at 2.68. In 2.68, what Bhagavan says is that at the end of the day, you need to start controlling and managing your sense objects, sense organs, not necessarily to the point of controlling them blindly, but controlling them with knowledge, such that they are not able to that you are able to overcome the affections what it would have towards the various objects. So there are 5 sense organs and 5 action organs. Okay, through the 5 sense organs, perceive the glory in everything. Okay, of this universe, and through the 5 action organs, in your daily practice, whenever we talk or we walk or you hold something, have that humility within us that all this is Bhagavan's glory. There's nothing in you. And only when we start perceiving the glory and also being humble in our actions, just walk on the ground. Every day you walk on the ground. Bring in that humility, saying that I am walking on this ground because of somebody else's grace. Otherwise, you are not able to walk on this ground at all. Then it kind of, brings down that ahankara and mamakara, which is a sort of a removal of the vision over a longer period of time, or maybe not one instant or whatever that happens, depending on our own minds. But at the end of the day, the 10 organs of action and senses are basically, if we start looking at it as a perceiving the glory and practicing humility in our actions, it helps to reduce our ahankara and mamakara. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is, from a practical perspective, okay? Now, there are the Varna, Ashrama, Dharma, all of us are aware of this concept. Now, you look at Varna and Ashrama, right? And you have these 4 ashramas, then let's take only the Grihastha Ashrama and Sannyasa Ashrama. Now, nowhere in our scriptures it has been said that Jnanis can only be in Sannyasa Ashrama. In fact, on the contrary, in this it says that Jnanis can be in Grihastha Ashrama also. So this Ashrama stage does not matter for the vision what one has about this entire universe. Okay. Now, the second thing is, in Grihastha Ashrama, if you look at it, which is where most of us are, some of us could be in Vanaprastha Ashrama, and some of us could be somewhere else. But if you look at Grihastha Ashrama, there is the progression of people is, first you do karmas alone, and then you move to karma yoga, and then from karma yoga you go to gnana yoga, and then from gnana yoga there is gnani. Now, in that entire path, what happens is that when a person goes from karma all the way to gnana, the person can still be in Grihastha Ashrama and he can still continue to do the same things what he's been doing. Okay, so there is nothing that stops an individual, irrespective of the ashrama dharma what that person in, to be in whichever state they are in and perceive this entire world as one Advaita. Okay. Now, is this substantiated in daily practice? Yes, it is substantiated. I'll tell you why. You look at Sandhya Vandanam. Okay, Sandhya Vandanam as a practice. Sandhya Vandanam as a practice has got 2 important steps. One of the first steps which everybody understands is chanting of Gayatri Mantra. And chanting of Gayatri Mantra basically says that enlighten our minds so that we can see that reality. Okay, that's what it says. Okay, Dhiyo Yona Prachodaya. But before we say that, there is another mantra that we chant, which is called Brahma Aikya Anusandhana. Basically, the mantra is Asavaditya Brahma Sahamasmi. Before we go and chant the Gayatri Mantra, you actually acknowledge that the sun, Asa Aditya, that sun is Brahman. And then you say, Saham Asmi. Then you say that I am that sun, I am that Brahman. We acknowledge that. But then once we acknowledge that, we still go and say, please illumine my mind. That does not mean that, the person does not understand this. The person may understand this, but his knowledge of how it is implemented in his own life may be at 0.001% or maybe at 99%. Okay. So there's a spectrum, there's a continuum. So there is nothing like There's nothing like, you cannot bring the Gnana concept in your daily life. It's not possible. On the contrary, my argument is that you can live a better life only with that particular Gnana and then continue to do your entire day-to-day work the way that you would want to do with that knowledge. So irrespective of whether it is chapter 11 or any other 11, the goal of human goal should not be forgotten. That is Aham Brahmasmi. That's what I want to share as my summary to this objection.
K2 sent that discussion or that little article that Swami P wrote about religion and spirituality. I don't know if everybody read that, but it was marvelous. And in it, he says he defines religion as a relationship, man to man, man to the world, man or woman, and person to the Lord. So from that point of view, how can you say a Jnani does not need Ishvara? The Jnani may understand that they are not two, but he wasn't always a Jnani. And the world is still an appearance that has to be understood. So I just wanted to argue against that point.
So, sorry, Rick, it's a question for me?
No, it's really a statement. I mean, you can take it, you can comment on it too.
No, I agree. I agree. Yeah. Because, all of us experience that, right? For example, think about this. Before a child is born, the child and the mother are inseparable. But once the child is born, physically they are separate, but mentally the mother's state is probably not that.
Well, and also both on a everyday level and on a spiritual level, we're all connected. We all know that. And in the spiritual sense, there's only one awareness. So how can we be otherwise? But as long as we're not living that, then we have the relationship, the as if relationship.
Yeah. Anyway, this objection helped me to kind of go back to reading about chapter 2, listening into some of the things, and then probably come back with my point of view. And I'm not saying I'm justifying what I'm writing here. All I'm saying is that it's a way of understanding where you are. You can be very puritanical and say that chapter 11 is only this, therefore don't bring in other things. But then I would not want to miss out the forest and what you would see beyond that for the trees. So that's all is my perspective.
Agree.
Any questions? Otherwise, we can
agree.
go to the next person.
Agree.
All right. Who's going to go next? Subbu.
I think Subbu can go, yes.
Mukund.
No, it make our job easier, man. Subbu, go. Then we can say Subbu slide 5, slide 6, like that.
Actually, I'm having a little bit of cough, so in case there is, please bear with me. I just hope I can do this well. Yeah. You can see the screen? You can see the screen,
Yes.
guys?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, Hari Om. And so I have tried to capture the essence of chapter 11. Okay. It comes in actually 3 parts. I think first part is an introduction to the chapter. The second is the summary of the verses. And the third part is the learnings that I've taken from the chapter. Okay. Right. So first to address, the introduction, right? What is Vishwarupa? Right. I think what it has taught us, even in chapter 10 in the Vibhuti Yoga, is that the world and the Lord are not different, right? And why do we say so? Because, the God is actually Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karana, which is, he's not just the intelligent cause, but also the material cause of the universe. And therefore, everything that we see is God. And you can also infer saying that God is omnipresent, right? And this also, explains why in our culture we worship idols, we worship stones, rivers, trees, mountains, cows, sun, and everything of creation, because we see that aspect of God in everything that we actually interact with. Okay, so what is VR all about? Vishwarupa is not about a physical change, but an attitudinal change. Okay. So how does this attitudinal change come across? It comes across when one has an understanding of what God is as per the scriptures, and one, tries and, modifies his outlook in line with that. Okay. So an example which is quoted by Swami Paramarthananda in his lectures is that, he says, when you see a Nataraja statue, the statue is the same, but one person may stand up and take a camera and click a photograph of Nataraja because he's seeing the art in Nataraja, but the other person may actually take a flower and offering it because he sees God in that sculpture, right? So VR is not about a physical change. The Nataraja statue is the same. It is an attitudinal change that we bring about, basis our own understanding of what God is and changing our outlook towards in line with him. Yeah. And VR is also a stepping stone from, understanding the perspective of what God is in the scripture. So it is a movement from Ekarupa to Anekarupa. Of course, however, the final transition is when we make the shift from Anekarupa to Arupa nature of the Lord. Therefore, what does, the benefits that we get because of Vishwarupa Yoga is that I think there are 4 benefits which is laid out. One is that I don't hate anything because I see God in everything. I develop humility because I see myself as one of the small parts in the whole, right? I also learn to respect all forms of faith, worship people, etc. And also I expand my mind. Okay, I think we learned this also in Swami Chinmayananda's note on, I think, chapter number 7, 1, 2, 3, where he asks this question: how can a finite mind understand the infinite? And the answer that he gives in that chapter is, when through constant contemplation, the finite mind can actually transcend, and acquire additional powers to, become the infinite. And therefore, with every step that I take from, realizing God as from Ekarupa to Anekarupa to Arupa, I am expanding my horizon, my perspective, and therefore, mind expansion and understanding of the infinite also happens. The second question before the chapter is basically an introduction to understand what is the difference that we see between chapter 10 and chapter 11, which is the Vibhuti Yoga and the Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga. I think in chapter 10, it is all about the infinite glories of the Lord. And we know that, despite 42 odd verses, we know that it is still a fraction of his glory. Right? In 10.8 and 10.42, I think there are 2 statements that Bhagavan makes, which I thought I will quote here. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. That is, I'm the source of all, and from me everything evolves. And the other thing he says is ekanshena sthito jagat. Ekanshena means he pervades the whole sthito jagat. That is, he pervades the whole universe with a fraction of his glory, right? And what is it? Therefore, what is the Vibhuti Yoga? Is about all the glories of the Lord. And Vishwarupa Yoga is the realization of it through the direct experience. So that's how I would see chapter 10 and 11 together. So chapter 10, as I think, somebody summarized it in the thing, I think Gunz, he said, in chapter 10, we know that God is in everything. And chapter 11, we come to realize that everything is God. And everything is in God. Okay. Now, coming to the shlokas, the first section is basically when, the chapter starts. I think the first word of the chapter is actually Madanugrahaya. Madanugrahaya is basically by grace. Okay. So Arjuna is saying that his delusion is gone. Now, what delusion are we talking about? There are 2 delusions that the Gita tries to address, which is the ethical conflict and the philosophical conflict, which is the dharma-adharma conflict and the atma-anatma conflict. So this is the only scripture which probably addresses the, both conflicts and therefore the greatness of the Gita, right? And at the same time, he says he has Shraddha in whatever, Lord Krishna has been saying, and he accepts him as the Jagat Guru, right? But despite having heard almost 40 odd verses of the Vibhutis of the Lord, he's still desirous of seeing the Lord in his full glory, and hence the request for the cosmic form. Now, I have just quoted some 4 learnings from Arjuna that we can take from, chapter 11 and probably the preceding chapters also, is because, at one end we say Arjuna is probably very lucky along with the 4 others who got to see the Vishwarupa Darshana. But, I think the foundation had been laid by Arjuna earlier, and I think we need to understand what is it that prompted the Lord to grant him the Vishwarupa. Okay, and these are my revelations in this. So the first word, which is Madanugrahaya, is basically saying that I'm going to give you this knowledge, which is Paramam Guhyam Adhyatmam Sanchitam. Okay, so basically I'm giving you the supreme knowledge and the secret because, you deserve my grace. Okay, and why did this happen? If you go back, I think 2.07 actually lays the foundation for the entire Gita, where he says, Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapannam. Prapannam is basically total surrender to Lord Krishna. So I think the first learning is to have Sharnagati, to be able to imbibe the grace. The second learning is, in chapter 9.01, he says, Idam tu te guhyatamam, that is, Anusuya way. Okay. Anusuya way is basically saying that I'm teaching this supreme knowledge to you because you're non-envious. You don't have hatred. You don't have jealousy. You don't have comparative nature, which means that you have a samatva buddhi. Okay. And 9.03, he says the importance of Shraddha, because without Shraddha, you can never know him. So if Arjuna has got to know Krishna the way he is, so he's also had Shraddha in what the Guru is teaching. So the second and third learning from Arjuna is, Samatvam and Shraddha. And lastly, in 11.04, he says, with humility, if I'm deserving of such a vision, please grant it to me. Okay. So it's still, having known everything, he's still humble as a, Shishya. And therefore, these are the four learnings from Arjuna that I've taken, which is Sharanagati, Samatvam, Shraddha, and humility. Now, obviously, the Divya Chakshu was granted to Arjuna, right? And, just because we don't see the cosmic form doesn't mean the cosmic form doesn't exist. I think this is one learning that we can take. And if we have to really see the cosmic form, I think the preparatory notes are there that we have to reduce the Raga Dvesha. Okay, and why is it that we are not able to see is the difference between what I know and what I am, and for which the solution is Chitta Shuddhi, and for which I need to do K2 LM3, that is Kama Krodha Lobha Moha, that reduction, and I have to have a mind which is devoid of Ahamkara and Mamakara. Okay, when I do this, I can probably acquire a divine eye, and just because I don't see it today doesn't mean that particular thing doesn't exist. Okay, so with Lord's grace, I think Arjuna gets the Antakarna Shuddhi and the divine eye, and he temporarily bridges this gap for Arjuna so that he may see his Vishwarupa. Now, we have always, we've discussed this before, that this entire thing of Vishwarupa is nothing but a attitudinal change. So I thought when I cover the cosmic form, I should break this into three parts. So one part is to show what the Lord says about his cosmic form. The second part is what Sanjaya is saying about the cosmic form. And third is what Arjuna says about the cosmic form. So I have broken these verses from 11.5 to 11.31 in these three buckets. Okay. So what does the Lord say about the cosmic form? He says the whole universe is within me, both movable and immovable. And it is just a fraction of my glory. Okay, that's a summation there. Of course, Sahasra Shirsha, Purushaha, and all that, Adityas, Vasus, Rudras, all that is there. But the essence is the whole universe, moving and non-moving, is actually in the God, and it is centered. It is a fraction of his glory. And what does Sanjaya see? Sanjaya also sees a very descriptive, objective form of the Lord. He says, numerous mouths, etc., splendor of 1,000 suns. It is just one of the limb. He also sees this as a fraction of the divine glory. But what does Arjuna see? Arjuna sees a lot of things. He explains a lot of things because he's got the maximum number of verses here. But at the same time, there are two, points which come across till verse number 31, which is one is Ashcharyam, where he's amazed to see all the gods, the sages, Brahma himself in the Vishwarupa. And along with that, he sees the whole universe in the Vishwarupa. I think these are the 2 points there for the wonderment. And the second stage, he says, it is not just a wonderment, but it is also a terrible form, right? And why does he say it is a terrible form? Because he's now seeing, Krishna as the cosmic form in a light where, people are getting killed, people are getting crushed, okay? It is consuming everything. And he's completely shaken to see that, this is no ordinary person who is with me, but he's the Lord himself. But here in between 11.5 to 11.31, I thought I will highlight one verse. I just picked one verse here, which is 11.18. And the reason I have picked up this verse is I heard a interpretation of this verse, which was very nice. And I thought I should share this with you. Okay, the verse I have picked here between verse number 5 to 31 is 11.18, which is Twamaksharam Paramam Veritavyam Tamasya Vishwasya Param Nidhanam. So basically, we know it is in 4 parts. The reason why I picked this up is in one shloka, you actually get to see all the aspects of the Supreme. When you say Twamaksharam Paramam Veritavyam, okay, you're actually referring to the Nirguna Nirakara form of the Lord. Okay. When you say Twamasya Vishwasya Param Nidhanam, when you say Vishwasya, the Saguna form comes in. And when you say Param Nidhanam, he is a substratum of everything that is there in the world. he again becomes a Nirakara form. Okay. So the first part is, and when you say Dharma Gupta in quarter 3, you're saying that he is the, Saguna Sakara form of the Lord, who, like Krishna, has come in an avatara form to establish Dharma. And then in the last quarter, it says, Sanatana Sattvam Purusho Matome. Okay. Again, it goes back to the Nirguna Nirakara. So basically, in one verse, you actually have the Nirguna Nirakara in 1 and 4, and you have the Saguna Nirakara in quarter 2, and in quarter 3, you actually have the Saguna Sakara form of the Lord, which he is addressing. Coming to basically, 11.32 onwards, okay, Bhagavan starts giving his declaration. So now, obviously, with all the fear, he's surprised and he wants to know who he is. And he says, I am Kalaha. Kalaha is basically, I am time. Okay, which means what? I am actually the Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya Karana of this entire creation. Okay, I create, I sustain, and I destroy. Okay, right? But when you see God in this light, I think the fundamental take is that everything is auspicious because everything is concerned with the Lord, right? We normally take Srishti and Sthiti as auspicious, but here we see that Laya is also auspicious because, it is nothing but the form of the Lord, okay? Right? And then he says, stand up and obtain your glory and be a nimitta matram. I think this is something that we need to understand, that what does the Lord mean by nimitta matram? To be an instrument in his hands. So the question to answer here is that, who is the karta, who is the bhokta, and who's the karma paladata? And I think the answers are clear that, it is God is the karma paladata. Okay, the karta and bhokta is the jiva, and the binding and non-binding to the karma can happen depending upon you do it with a sense of doership or not. Okay, so in 3.27 he says ahankara vimudatma. Okay, basically because of the ego, right? The fools actually do it with a sense of doership and therefore are bound by the fruits of karma. Okay, and one should understand that Lord is the, with the Maya power is doing everything, and the wise jnanis know this, and they are not deluded, and therefore they are not bound by the fruits of karma, and therefore they are released from the clutches of bondage and hence liberated. I think one more important point I thought was 11.34, where the Lord says ma vyatishta, okay, which means do not fear. Now, having seen the very so-called terrible form of the Lord, he's also giving you the declaration, and he's giving you the assurance saying that do not fear about this form, right? And I think that's a take that we need to do, because a lot of times we forget that we have to love God and not fear him. Okay, I think this is the take I have, and therefore you need to see both Srishti and Layam as complementary pairs and not opposite pairs, because when you see it as opposites, you celebrate birth and you sorrowful at the time of death. But if you were to see both as auspicious, you will welcome birth also and you will welcome death also. Okay, that is what it means by saying that seed is a complementary pair and not a opposite pair. Now, again, from 1135 to 1146, Arjuna surrenders yet again and seeks forgiveness. So 1136 is a very interesting shloka. I was told that, this particular shloka has a lot of bijakshara. And if anybody is afraid of anything, right, they can chant the shloka and, and it definitely helps. Okay. And what is the shloka talking about? It is talking about the Rakshasas running away. Just 1 second. Just 1 minute, please. And what does this shloka talk about? It talks about the Rakshasas running away and the Siddhas gaining strength. Now, Rakshasas basically refer to the Tamas and Rajas. So in the Lord's presence, the Rajasic tendencies and the Tamasic tendencies fall away and the Sattvic tendencies tend to grow. Okay. This is the crux of 1136. In 1137, he says, Sadasat Param Yat. See, in Gita, whenever you see Yat, Tat, Sat, and all that, it all refers to basically the Supreme Parabrahman. And here he says he's beyond cause and effect and he's the Supreme. Okay. And 1138, is why I picked up 1138 is 1138 is a shloka where Arjuna is defining, after seeing the cosmic form, what you are, after the realization has dawned. So in the first part, we saw how he just describes the, what he sees, but then he says, once he has the realization, he says, first of gods, ancient Purusha, foundation of the world, omniscient. Okay, Vetasi Vedhyam. Okay, now we saw that in Vishwarupa, God is omnipresent. Now we are getting to see that God is also omniscient. Okay, and then he says, which is to be known. Okay, supreme abode, pervading the world, infinite form, etc., etc. Right, and then he says, your Vayu, Agni, Moon, Prajapati, and he's prowling and prostrating to him in all directions. Right, because there is no center for him. There is no Adi. There is no Ant. And therefore he is falling at his feet. Across all directions. In 1140, I think what he says is Ananta Virya Mita Vikram. Vikram. Okay, so Ananta Virya is basically limitless, courage, and Vikram is basically, strength. Okay, power. Okay, so here we talk about God is now being an omnipotent Lord, right? And interestingly, 1141 to 1144, he says, please forgive me because I might have, chided you in, either out of fun or play. And he quotes three, references. Okay, the first reference he gives is father, which brings the Vatsalya Bhava. Okay, the second reference he says is friend, which brings the Sakha Bhava, and the third he says is beloved. Okay, which brings the Madhurya Bhava. Okay, so these are the three adjectives, or the references that he gives to seek forgiveness from the Lord. And of course, he wants to, see the Ekarupa form, which is probably a demotion, but given the fact that, he was not fully prepared and it was given to him for a temporary thing, he desires to see the, the Ekarupa form of the Lord. Okay. Now, coming to the last section of the chapter, which is Bhagavan's reiteration between 1147 to 54. I think we have seen this. He says, Maya prasannena tvavarjinena. So basically, by my own grace. Now, Lord is describing himself. See, so long when we saw Arjuna was describing the Lord, now here Lord is describing himself as Tejomayam Vishwam Anantam Adyam. You can add Advithiyam also, but here in this verse, he actually says, I am radiance, I am universal form, I am limitless, and I am the primeval. Okay, right? And he again reiterates that 1148 and 1153 that one cannot achieve this particular vision, and he was indeed blessed to have had this vision, and one cannot achieve this vision through Vedic rituals, sacrifices, and yajna and dana. Okay. Now, obviously, there are two ways you can interpret this, why he has said so. One is to say that Vedic rituals also is very materialistic in nature, that you're still using God as a means to get worldly ends. But, you can also look at it from another perspective, saying that, if this was really true, then what would happen to the people who are illiterate and those who do not have proper education, right? So, and at one level, this is still a Sakama Bhakti and not a Nishkama Bhakti, right? 1154, he says, he talks the importance of Ananya Bhakti. And there are three words which are very important here, which is Gyatum, Drishtum, Cha, Tatvena, Praveshtam. Okay. So this is the three-stage, process of God realization. First is to know God as per the Shastras, Gyatum. So right here, you and God are separated. It is still a Dvaitam form of, philosophy. Drashtum is to be seen, to have the vision of the Lord and to be able to contemplate on him. Okay, which is like, now you're seeing God in everything, Vishishta Advaitam. And last is Praveshtam, which is after long practice, the devotee becomes united with the Lord. Okay, a Jivan Mukta. It is like salt and water combining. Then there is no two entities. Once the salt is in water, okay, and combined and dissolved, or the sugar is in water, combined and dissolved, the Lord alone is. Okay, there is no two entity, there is only one, which is the Advaitam principle. Now, this also can be looked upon from, a different perspective, where you have a fourfold approach to the divinity, which is Salokyam, Samipyam, Sarupyam, and Sayujyam. Okay, Salokyam is what is Ananya Bhakti all about? Okay, continuous contemplation of the Lord. Samipyam is once you continuously contemplate a Lord, the Lord comes nearer to you. He says, no, that is, you take one step towards me, I take 1,000 steps near you. So if you start contemplating on the Lord, Salokyam, you reach Samipyam, which is nearness to the Lord. The Lord starts coming closer to you, right? Then you have Sarupyam. By that nearness, you are able to therefore see the vision of the Lord. And in the end, there is Sayujyam, which is the union of the Jivatma with the Paramatma. Okay. And the most, important sloka in the chapter, which is the 1155 chapter, which says, if I have to merge with the Lord, what is it that I need to do? And God alone, God himself declares this in 1155, which he claims to be the 5 characteristics of the Bhaktas. You can also, because this particular shloka addresses karma yoga, dhyana yoga, bhakti, jnana, everything, right? So, mat karma krita is karma yoga. It is like inaction in action. That means whatever work I do, yat karoshi, yat juhoshi, yat ajnasi, that is whatever you do, you offer it as a worship to the Lord. That is the truest form of karma yoga. Dhyana yoga is seeking God as the only refuge. Okay. And here it is very clearly, shifting from, the fact that you're moving from the materialistic requirements that you have to basically seeking God only as the means, and God only as the end in your spiritual journey. Mad Bhaktaha is, what is being spoken is the Bhakti Yoga. We discussed the Sakama to Nishkama transition that is expected to happen, which means that in Sakama Bhakti, you're using God as a mean and world as the end, whereas in Nishkama, you're using world as a means to attain God as the end. Okay, so the shift from Sakama to Nishkama. Sangha Varjitaha, which is, be completely detached. And I'm sure we will be seeing this shloka, which is coming again in 15.3 in Bhagavad Gita, which says, Asanga Shastrena Dridena Chitva. Okay. Cut the, tree of attachment with an axe, right? And be like the water drop on the lotus leaf. That is, you're still in the world, in the Prakriti, but at the same time, you're completely detached from it. And of course, one important thing, which we saw earlier on why the Vidya Rajaguhyam was given to Arjuna was because he was Anasuya way, which is 9.1, free of jealousy. And here he also talks about Nirvairaha Sarva Bhuteshu, which means that is hatred from enmity from all beings. Okay. Now, this brings the conclusion of the summary, but I just thought I will put quickly learnings which I've got from this thing. I think the first learning section I have taken in learning is Bhagavan is Sat Asat Param. He is beyond cause effect. God is omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. The universe is para prakriti and apara prakriti, matter and spirit principle. For Vishwarupa, you need Chitta Shuddhi, which is possible through Raga Dvesha reduction and Mama Ahamkara Mamakara reduction, which is only possible through continuous contemplation of the divine, okay, keeping God as the end, which is Ananya Bhakti. And importance we saw of 4 aspects of learnings from Arjuna, which is Shraddha, Sharanagati, humility, and grace in spirituality. Techniques that can help us in, moving forward in our spiritual journey is to move the very concept of God from Ekarupa to Anekarupa to Arupa. The second is Sakama Bhakti to Nishkama Bhakti, where you use, the Sakama Bhakti, if you see chapter number 7, there are 4 different kinds of Bhakta. The Artha and Artharthi come under Sakama. The Jnani and the Jigyasu come under the Nishkama, where they are seeking God as the, final destination and the end. Okay. And what does VR teach you? You close your eyes, it is Aham Brahmasmi. You open your eyes, it is Tattvamasi. So God is everywhere. God is everything, right? Where did you come from? You came from God. Where are you going to? You're going to God. Where are you now? You're in God. Therefore, God alone is. Okay. Accept the good and bad as complementary and not opposing pair. Everything is Mangalam because everything is God. Okay. And this is the technique that we had spoken earlier, that is looking at the wondrous ways of the world. Tell yourself and condition yourself saying that, the world does not require dvesha. And when you see the, not so good things, like you go to a hospital and see a lot of misery and sorrow, you say the world doesn't deserve raga. In some way, what you're doing is you're trying to mitigate raga and dvesha, but you're using it, in the opposite way to be able to achieve the same result. Okay. So the other thing is that you need to love God and do not fear him. I think we need to love God. We should only fear sin and maintain morality in the society. This is what Satya Sai Baba says. And in 1155, I think all paths come together in one shloka, which is Karma, Bhakti, Jnana, Dhyana. Follow all of them together. Okay. And why I've written this is that I've also seen this, maybe different perspectives, but you go to any of the ashrams, right? You will find a mix of everything that is being practiced, probably because they're addressing a larger audience of, bhaktas who are of varied categories. But I think, it is important to, take all of them together in 1155. Like how Satya Sai Baba used to put it in, 8 words: love all, serve all, help our, hurt never. I think that is also, in some way captured in 1155. Most importantly, for puja, japa, dhyana, and all of sadhana, okay, it is incomplete without bhava. So puja, japa, and dhyana is incomplete without bhava, which makes bhakti paramount. Okay. Thank you very much. Om Tat Sat. Yeah.
Excellent, Subbu. Any questions for Subbu?
Excellent,
Very
Subbu.
comprehensive, Subbu. Good job.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Beautiful, Subbu. I had one quick flash that came into my mind when you were talking. That's why I was busily looking up in Swami C's book, like You referred to 3.27, which was beautiful, and suddenly it struck me the same thing which you addressed also in the end, which is the inaction in action.
Yeah, yeah,
That was very nice. And I went and saw where in chapter 4 he says that it's 4.18 actually.
yeah. Okay,
It was a beautiful connection. And then he brings it up in 11.55, right?
correct, correct, correct,
Right
correct.
in the beginning. So, like Swami Ji repeatedly says, and I'm sure all the Swamiji say this, when you hear Krishna repeat several things over and over, he's beating it. He wants to beat it into your head. Like,
Correct.
don't forget this.
Yeah,
Right.
Ananya Bhakti is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
All right. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I can go, Kuntax.
Okay, go ahead.
Or if anybody else wants to go, please feel absolutely free.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry?
You volunteered. You take the floor.
Okay, I'll take the floor. Let me just try to share my screen. Apps. Why am I not able to? Oh, desktop. Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Go
I'll
ahead.
go to slideshow. How about now?
Yes.
You
Yeah,
can
we
see
can
the
see.
slideshow, right? Okay. So these are my chapter 11 ahas. I'll just start with a quick prayer, and I realized that I was using Vishwarupam anyway in these presentations and all the gurus there. So I selected this prayer, slightly different one from the others that I thought this was kind of appropriate here. So I'll just chant it really quick. Om Shanno Mitrasham Varuna Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukrama Namo Brahmane Namasdevayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ridam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tat Vaktaramavatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So thank you for the opportunity and humble homage to all gurus as always. Just a quick gratitude to my mother and father, to Swami Ji for his blessings, to Daivam, to Professor VK, who is always giving us his blessings, and to our entire satsang here. As you can see, intelligent and material cause. I did not have Nimitta Karanam before, but I added it last night because that's truly the case. And then namaste to the entire Guru Shishya lineage. And of course, the entire Upanishads, Gita, Vedas, and all the scriptures. So here, I was thinking, because the coverage has been so comprehensive and extensive, and I went back and said, okay, what am I getting out of it? What are my ahas out of chapter 11? And you'll see. I'll try to go through this and would love your comments or feedback. So chapter 11 is obviously the Vishwarupam. And I was smiling because Subbu referred to 10.8. And I was thinking the same thing. And I was going back and forth between 10 and 11, and I was reading what Swami C wrote in chapter 10 when he was starting it. And he says, I am the source of all. From me, everything evolves. So that's kind of the Ishvara concept. But if you read Swami C's description, and I'll read this quote, when life surges through the cosmic mind, it, in brackets Ishvara, comes to project out the entire universe of plurality And when the same infinite expresses through an individual mind, it, in brackets, jiva, projects out the individual world. So we can claim that this is Ishvara, but what Swami C is trying to say is there is a universe inside of the jivas as well. So I think it's a beautiful way he's describing it. But this came to mind when I was going through chapter 11. This is not an aha yet. So I'm just prefacing this that this was kind of one of my starting points when I was thinking through chapter 11. Then in 10.20 and again in 10.32, Krishna gets into this repetitive kind of thing. And he says, I am the self. So because I can't read the the verses exactly the way they are supposed to be read, I'll use all the English translations. But these are all directly from Swami C's translation. So 10.20, he says, I am the self, O Gudakesha, seated in the hearts of all beings. I am the beginning, the middle, and also the end of all beings. Right? And Krishna says this again in 10.32. So he's setting Arjuna up for chapter 11. So it's kind of progressively he's bringing it, and he's connecting. And later on, you'll see this is one of my ahas, is like he's kind of putting or incepting Arjuna. If you've seen Inception, right? He's putting seeds of thoughts into Arjuna's mind. So he gets the right questions from Arjuna. At least that's one way to think about this. So let me keep going. So Swami C also, like I was saying, another reference here. At the beginning of chapter 10, he says, if once this idea of the self as seen through the individual mind and the cosmic mind is understood properly, both chapters 10 and 11 become amply self-evident and self-explanatory. So this goes back to what Subbu, you were mentioning, and also the 1155. So he's trying to bring all that together. And this led me, now I started going into chapter 11, and the first aha for me was right in 11.1. Arjuna says his delusion is gone after 10 chapters of like going back and forth. So he said this, that he was completely deluded. And actually, Krishna made the comment, right? The wise ones do not talk like this. And he chides him quite a bit in back in chapter 2. And so many verses, so many deep references, and Krishna keeps pulling out all the stops and everything. And finally, he says, okay, my delusion is gone. But that's not, obviously, that's not enough. So he also realizes that he needs to see the unity in the diversity. This is how Swami C puts it, is so beautifully writes it. So he wants to see and have that cosmic vision. He wants to see what the cosmic mind looks like. And Swami C describes this before 11.8 as the one in the many has been described in the last chapter. And here we are about to see the many in the one. So this is Ekarupa to Anekarupa, Subbu. Basically, it's basically the same thing. I just like the way Swami C was kind of describing it, and it was almost very enchanting to read this and go and get into the details of each verse's description that he has written. So that was my first aha, is that yeah, the delusion can be gone, but you're not there yet. Having no delusion is not the end of it. And the second one is so this is something that I was thinking about. What is the Vishwarupa? So everybody is so how would I put it? Like in the Western world, at least, right? Everybody is like Vishwarupa, Oppenheimer, and all the stuff. So my big aha was, what is it? Like, I wanted to go and actually sit and read these descriptions. So that's what I did. And that was my aha. These descriptions are so beautiful because Arjuna is not able to actually describe it, but he still uses words to describe it. So, and Swami C says, behold Ishvara's divine extravaganza. So that's 11.10 to 11.30. And then Krishna talks about being time the destroyer, the famous Oppenheimer verse. Then 11.33, Okay, before I come to 11.33, I want to read a couple of those descriptions actually. And Swami C, you can see his command of the English as well as the Sanskrit. So, sorry, I went to 11.38, but let me just go back to 11.10 really quick. So 11.13, there in the body of the god of gods, the Pandava son of Pandu, then saw the whole universe resting in one with all its infinite parts. So, I mean, you can just imagine this. And this Swami C says somewhere in here, remember the scene where Krishna was a young child and Yashoda asked him to open his mouth because he stole butter and from the neighbors and all that, from the other people in the neighborhood, and Krishna opens his mouth and Yashoda sees the entire universe. So there's a reference to that kind of thing here in 11.13. Then 11.14, he says, then Dhananjaya, filled with wonder, with his hair standing on end, bowed down his head to the god and spoke with joined palms. And then he starts, I see all the gods, O God, in your body, and also hosts of various classes of beings. Brahma, the Lord of creation, seated on the lotus, all the rishis and celestial serpents. And then, oh yeah, 11.16, he says, I see thee of boundless form on every side, with manifold arms, stomachs, mouths, and eyes. Neither the end nor the middle nor also the beginning do I see. O Lord of the universe, O cosmic form. I mean, he's just gone to a different plane now. This was just beautiful. The way he continues to describe the Vishwarupam. And then I see thee with crown, club, and discus. So that's the Vishnu, a mass of radiance shining everywhere, very hard to look at, all round blazing like burning fire and sun, and incomprehensible. So you can see more and more how he was just getting really into it in the description. And then 11.18, I think, Subbu, you referred to this. You are the imperishable, the supreme being worthy to be known. You are the great treasure house of this universe. You are the imperishable protector of the eternal Dharma. In my opinion, you are the ancient Purusha. So he goes on like that. And then he keeps going, right? The space between earth and the heavens and all the quarters is filled by you alone. So there is no other, basically. He does not see the beginning, the middle, or the end. All that is the divine extravaganza that he talks about. So I thought it was really, really beautiful. And then the most universal prayer comes in 38 to 44 after Krishna shows the terrible form like we saw. And I want to read a couple of them. So in 11.38, he says, you are the primal God, the ancient Purusha. You are the supreme refuge of this universe. You are the knower, the knowable, and the abode supreme. By these, the universe pervaded, O being of infinite forms. And then he says, you are Vayu, like basically you are wind, death, fire, water, the moon, Prajapati, and the great grandfather of all. And salutations unto you 1,000 times, and again salutations, Namo Namaste. He finishes with that. And he keeps on going through. Then in 11.41, he comes back to whatever I have rashly said from carelessness or love, addressing you as O Krishna, O Yadava, O friend, and regarding you merely as a friend, unknowing of this greatness of yours. So obviously it is a description of Ishvara, right? It's definitely the Aneka Rupa form. That is very clear, but I just thought, and Swami C actually says, this is the most universal prayer you can think of. It transcends all religion. It transcends everything. The way Arjuna is expressing his feelings here in 38 to 44 It's just I just thought it was very beautiful. You can use it anywhere, anytime, and I think if we keep going and contemplating on this, it'll be so valuable. And the third one for me was the cosmic form is actually Virata Rupa, because it is the Ishvara, the cosmic appearance. But the chapter is called Vishwarupa. So this is the final comment that Swami C had, which I thought was very interesting. Why? Because Vishwa is the name given to us in our waking state, right? There's Vishwa, Taijasa, and Pragya, that those three. And then the universal form is called Virat, or that's why is the chapter not called Virata Rupa? Why is it called Vishwarupa? So Swami C puts in Tamil we call it podi, right? He puts a like a zinger, let's say, at the end, saying it should have been called Virata Rupa, but I'm going to call it Vishwarupa. That's what Vyasa says. So it obviously brings these universes together, the universe inside our mind and the universe that is manifest, which is basically all the same thing. That's kind of how I took this away. I thought it was very beautiful. So yes, my ahas are done, but I still wanted to cheat a little bit. So cheat note number 1. So Oppenheimer notwithstanding. So this is the biggest trick that Bhagwan has up his sleeve so far, right? So Arjuna, now he says he lost his delusion, but now in actually going back to, I missed one point, sorry. Here I wanted to mention 11.33. So after 11.32, he says, I am time the destroyer and all that. And right after that, he says, Arjuna, you know that these guys are all done. I mean, I have killed them already. So why worry? Just get up and fight. So there's an upselling happening there, right there in the middle. Krishna wants Arjuna to take action. Again, going back to, chapter 3, Karma Yoga and all that, we can interpret it that way, but he wants Arjuna to take action. So 11.33 and 34, he says, you have to go and kill these people. That is your calling. So I felt that Krishna was obviously playing a game to keep putting thoughts in Arjuna's head as he was transforming. So it's been a beautiful transformation for Arjuna so far, and for us as well, right? Going through the chapters. So cheat note number 2, watch Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, specifically Volume 2. Just watch it and tell me why this is such a very, very well-researched movie. I just saw it last week with my son, and I'll leave it at that. Just go watch that, and then we may, if you get a chance to watch it, let me know, or we can take it up in our next satsang. I thought it was very, very nicely done, and some references to chapter 11, but there are some references to I think to Upanishads and earlier chapters of the Gita as well. Okay, so that is all I had. I did put one slide behind this, which is the one I copied from Alpana a long time back. So I'll just this basically shows the Jiva manifestation and the Ishvara manifestation. The only reason is because chapters 10 and 11 cover both these aspects of it, and that's basically why I included that. But that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, Gunz. Thank you so much.
Sir.
Any questions for Gunz?
Superb.
Very nice.
Excellent.
Gunz, please
Superb.
post the Guardians of Galaxy details in the WhatsApp group, because it will serve as a reminder for, at least for me personally, to watch it.
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay,
Yes.
next, Mukku and Spurti. One of you. Who wants
Usually,
to
you
go
are a
next?
great storyteller. Very nice.
Thank you.
Agree to that.
I like that Virata Purusha and Vishwarupa. Virata Rupa and Vishwarupa. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's Swami C. Okay, when I saw
Yeah.
that, I was like, yes, why they're not thinking about that? That was like a no. So,
Nice.
anyway.
Thank you.
Who's going next?
I can go next. If Muku, feel free to if you want to.
That's Purti, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I did not prepare any slides. I will be, I have some talking points from my notes and I will be just going over them. Yeah, Hari Om everyone. And all my, whatever I'm talking about today, whatever I will be presenting is coming from Swami SPG and Swami P. But whatever I would present, if there are any mistakes in that, it's only because of my lack of understanding, and it is nothing to do with the masters themselves. So having said that, the first thing I think that stuck to me when I was reading the shlokas and listening to Swami SPG's lectures were he kept going back to how beautiful the verses are. They are indeed very beautiful. I think Subbu and um, Raj actually read out some of these verses, right? They're very beautiful. The way God is described, it's very beautiful. And one of the things that Raj already mentioned, even SPG already calls it Virata Rupa, God in the cosmic form. It's actually the Virata Rupa. And one thing that I was reminded of, a story from our Puranas, from Shiva Purana, is we have so I guess it's Andakasura. So Andakasura is fighting this battle against the Devatas, and Shukracharya has been granted this Mrit Sanjeevani Vidya, so he can resurrect all the dead asuras. So what to prevent that from happening, Shiva actually swallows Shukracharya, and when Shukracharya goes into his belly, Shukracharya is able to see the entire universe, even the war, that is the battle that is happening. So I was actually reminded of that story when when I was reading some of these explanations about how the Vishwarupa is, right? We like all the basically all the universe is within God. Like he permeates, he pervades everything. I was reminded of this story. And also Raj also mentioned this 11.16, right, where God where the verse goes something like, Arjuna says, I don't see like a beginning nor the end nor the middle. I was reminded of this again of the story where Shiva appears as this column of fire, and there is this war between Brahma and Vishnu, right? And Vishnu mounts his Garud and he tries to find the beginning of this column, and Brahmaji goes to find the beginning, and Vishnuji tries to go and find the end of this column. And we know the story, like Brahmaji lies and all that, right? So I was again reminded of this. I think it was very nice to see that some of these verses, like I could actually relate it back to some of the stories we have in our Puranas. I think it was very nice. I think Raj also mentioned this story about Krishna opening his mouth and Yashodama seeing the entire universe. I think again very beautiful. Yeah, having said that, I think I think one of my aha moments was 11.33, because it says like we constantly have this debate about destiny versus free will and what we should do, right? Do we actually have free will? So Swami SPG spent a bit of time kind of like explaining this. Do we really have free will, or is it just an illusion? And if we say we don't have free will, then people are going to say, if I don't have free will, I can do anything I want, right? It's nature doing it on behalf of me, so why do you hold me responsible? So is this the right attitude? So we have this paradox. What should we be doing? And he also gave some excellent like sources. I again like didn't go back and like read them or anything, but he mentioned one book called Determined by Robert Sapolsky. He basically again talks about why there is actually no free will. He kind of explains it from a psychological and neurological like perspective. And then he also mentioned this essay by Arindam Chakravarti about why do we pray to God when he can even hear anklets on an ant's feet or something like that. So again, this breaks down the concept of determinism versus free will. And again, I didn't go back and check these out, but I do plan to. But I think one thing that I really took away from this was I think we should really not get involved in figuring out whether we really have free will or not. Whatever it is God's doing. God is the doer here, and we are not entitled to the results. It's only with God's grace that we will also get the results. So we should just act as the instrument. We are the instrument only, and just do whatever is in front of us. Don't think that we are the doer and expect results for it. So that is one thing that like kind of stuck me when I was reading 11.33. And the again 11.55, right? I think very nicely explained by Subbu. Ananya Bhakti, one pointed devotion. What are the five things we should what are the five characteristics, attributes of a real devotee? The devotee should basically work only for God. God realization should be the only goal of the devotee, and he should be completely devoted to me. And two things that the devotee should not do: give up attachment and have no hatred. And one last thing I would like to conclude my presentation with is this was again beautifully explained by Satya in his talk, and I think Subbu also alluded to it in his talk. What are the benefits of Vishwa Rupa Darshan, right? What are the things that we can really take away, and how does it really uh, apply to, especially I think some of the things, like how does it apply to today's world, to our scenario today? Dvesha parihara, because I think we all of us have like such strong notions of love and hatred. Like we do have those strong biases. So like ideally, like, because everything is God, everything is him. We should not really have any raga or dvesha towards any particular thing. And amanitvam, have that humility, because all the excellence, all the glory, everything, all the faculty we possess also belongs to the Lord, right? Like we are not the ones doing anything. So it's be humble enough to accept that it is God's glory that is just being exercised through us. And next one being everything around is sacred, sarvatra puja bhavana. I think Subbu also explained this. We do worship everything around us, so remember that like everything around is beautiful and worthy of worship. And respect for all forms of worship, sarva mata samabhava. Yeah, all gods are equal, like every form of worship is fine, right? Like I think this really applies to today's world, because we see people even like within the same religion, we have people fighting, right? Like Vishnu is superior, Shiva is superior. And yeah, like this really exists within all religion, and this is, I think, very beautifully comes out that we should actually have respect for all forms of religion. And I was also reminded of this famous shloka, Shivaya Vishnu Rupaya, Shiva Rupaya Vishnave, Shivasya Hridayam Vishnum, Vishnu's Hridayam Shiva. So just to say that they are actually one and the same, Vishnu and Shiva. I think it came out through this teaching. And the last one being, can we expand our mind, chitta vishalata, by experiencing everything in totality. Like, can we go from our narrow-mindedness to to make our minds more broad in some ways. Yeah, so these were my takeaways. Thank you for the time, and Hari Om, everyone.
Very nice.
Wonderful, Spurti. Thank you so much. Any questions for
Excellent.
Spurti?
Very nice.
Actually, Swami P also mentioned that, between Shiva and Vishnu, it's only the followers who have a problem. Shiva doesn't have a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
Vishnu doesn't have a problem. Neither, amongst various faiths, it's the same. The realized person doesn't have a problem. There is no raga dvesha there. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful insights, Purti. And one of the things that I also liked was like what Satya was just saying in the chat. You just spoke from how you felt from your heart, which was very nice.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Awesome. Over to you, Mukul.
Start with the prayer. Nityanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamuktim Dvanvadidam Gagana Sadursham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhudam Bhabatitam Trigunaragitam Satgurum Tam Namami. Thank you all. Like, it's nice to go towards the end because a lot of the points get covered, and especially after Subbu summary, you can, I think, pretty much refer to different slides. So what I've done is really just reflected on and just from a perspective that, from my side, what are some of the aha moments? And I'm going to just, let me know if you can see my screen and slideshow. Are you able to see my screen? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see.
So I think the first point I think a lot of you alluded to is, to me, I'm seeing chapter 11 is the bridge from a worldview of duality where there's the Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara, right? There are three entities: I exist, the world exists, and there's a concept of God. Whatever the concept of God is, right? Even concept there's no God is a concept of God. So to me, that is what is I think in Advaita there are three frameworks, right? There's a Shristi Drishtivada, which means that the world exists, we perceive it. The world is created and we are perceiving the world. And second, I think a principle is where it's called Drishti Shrishtivada, where the world, we perceive the world and then it comes up. So basically it is created in us and then it comes. And the last one is basically Ajatavada, which is the non-origination, which is the ultimate truth. If you look at if you just reflect on the principle of Advaita, there's no world does not exist, neither you exist. There is, right? So the non-origination is the kind of the supreme experience of Advaita. But based on where the seeker's journey is, right? Most of the people, we've all been conditioned to stay, the world has been created and we exist. We are watching and partaking and engaged in the world. And to move from here to here, even though as Advaita, talks about this is ultimate truth, the non-origination is ultimate truth. For a seeker to move from the world is the primary view this way, I believe my aha was, chapter 11 is a bridge, right? Because I'm deeply conditioned as a seeker that, I'm there is good and bad, I like this, I don't like this. That's all the strong conditionings, and I live and react and respond to life through that. So I think when Bhagwan gives the Vishwarupa Darshan here to Arjuna, I think to me that kind of breaks the boundary, it makes this whole idea that there's a rigid Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara boundary, it just makes it very fluid, right? That's kind of how I see this chapter 11 being the bridge. Because unless that boundary becomes fluid, possibility of experiencing the non-origination or the ultimate experience is almost not there. If I'm stuck to this world view that this world is rigid and everything, the boundary is rigid, then there's no possibility of experiencing the non-origination. So to me, it's almost like he breaks those boundaries in this through the chapter 11, Vishwarupa. That's kind of the bridge of that. If somebody is interested to know more on this, Swami SPG has spoken very beautifully on this principle of these three principles in a video. And that really helped me to, again, clarify my thoughts also around it. If anybody is interested, I can post the link on that. So to me, the key takeaway is this is the bridge from Advaita being an intellectual concept to be able to experience it for oneself. That was the first aha moment. Then I'm kind of going into some of the slokas where I can relate from a seeker journey. I mean, all of the seekers, we always have this doubt, right? Doubt. If you feel that it is possible, right? No seeker feels that he's worth it, right? So there's a doubt. If I can experience it, even though there is a truth, am I qualified? Am I good enough? Right? That's the seeker is always doubtful about that. And Arjuna is exactly starting with that. If you realize it is possible, please show it to me. Then this Bhagwan here, beautifully to see that, the concept of third eye, right, which a lot of our scriptures talk about. He's saying it's not possible for you to see through your normal eyes, but I'm going to grant you the vision. To me, this shows two things, right? What a role of a guru is, right? Which is Bhagwan is doing here, because he's saying, okay, I not only I should be able to talk you the truth, but I should be able to give you the experience of the truth, right? And that makes a difference. And that's how he says, now I grant you the divine vision. It just so a guru can just grant the vision to a disciple like that. And that shows, the kind of the context of a guru-disciple relationship, or the role a guru plays, not just in theoretically talking about things, but also giving an experience to his disciple that can move him from the doubt to an experience. That was kind of a quick aha. Bhagwan talks about that and a guru's ability to do that. And to me, the kind of where once the whole experience, Arjuna sees the Vishwarupa. I mean, what is really happening, like to him and to a lot of people who also experience that, is the logic breaks, right? Because if you look at it, I wish to know who you are. I do not comprehend your nature and activity. See, this is the conclusion. To me, in my perspective, we can talk about God, but the mind cannot comprehend it. The mind is too small to comprehend the concept of God or universe or cosmos. And the whole idea is, as Bhagwan is taking Arjuna through it, there's a point he comes, Arjuna feels the logic, the mind has to break. The logic cannot comprehend it. All the equations in the world, all the mathematical principles, all the physical principles, the biological principles cannot. This framework of Bhagwan is beyond all that. That realization needs to happen to the seeker. And to me, that's kind of one of the big, breaking point of a seeker's journey, where the rigidity of the Jiva Jagat Ishvara starts to crumble and become fluid, and the possibility of the merger, the Jiva merging with Ishvara, Ishvara merging with Jagat, and Jiva, that fluidity of that things start happening. Once the point that happens is once the logic breaks and it sees, oh my gosh, that I cannot comprehend this. And also, this is the point, the duality to oneness paradox, because duality and oneness are paradoxical principles, right? I'm saying I can experience the world is there. I'm there. I'm talking with somebody else. I'm praying to God. All the time. My actions are based on that. But I'm saying I'm established in oneness. It's inherently a paradoxical principle. The paradox needs to resolve by an experience. It's not an intellectual resolution. Once an experience is given, like what Arjuna is experiencing, this question just settles down automatically. So to me, that was this in a seeker's journey. This is a pretty important point in time, whereby a guru, by giving this experience to a disciple, the logic breaks and the duality to oneness paradox, the questions settles down. It's no more a paradox. You just see it happening as unified truth. I think this one was very beautiful. I loved it. This is the gift that the Bhagwan is giving to Arjuna here. This can neither be studied by the Vedas nor by penance, charity, or yagnas. Nothing can give this except the grace of the master, grace of Bhagwan in this case, right? So no amount of penance, this cannot be experienced by the individuals, whatever process he is in, whatever the scriptures has given. This is purely a gift from Bhagwan to Arjuna. That's it, period. And this is, to me, this was beautiful. I think a lot of you alluded to that, Subbu, and the whole journey into bhakti. Bhagavan very, very clearly says, true bhakti, through unparalleled devotion, can I be known like this? So anybody who has to experience this form, the path is devotion or bhakti. So when the logic of the mind breaks, the heart and the bhakti flowers. That's really, to me, that's kind of the starting point from where the Advaita as a theory, if one need to experience it, that's kind of the starting point. And my guru used to always call this as Jnana Varishta Bhakti. The bhakti is established on the foundation of jnana, right? And bhakti can be many, many places. I can say I want this. That's also bhakti. Can you give me this? But this is foundation of jnana, where the bhakti is established. Soham asmi, right? I am praying to you as knowing that I am also you, right? That's a Soham asmi principle, right? So to me, this was, I think, again, a beautiful aha moment as Bhagavan talks about this journey here. And, I think the last one is purely the Bhakti Yoga. It says, perform everything as me, devoted, remembering me. All of that is just purely a Bhakti Yoga. So I think, to me, in a seeker's journey, I think this bridge of this Vishwarupa breaks the logic of mind, the constructs of mind, the boundaries, the rigid boundaries of the Jiva Jagatishvara, and starts to loosen it up. And that can just be loosened just by the pure grace of the Guru. Right? No human effort, no study of the scriptures, no tapas can give you that. And once that beautiful you see the Guru do that, then it just is, you melt in devotion after that. As understanding that the Guru is not only can give you things, but he's a pillar, the foundation on which the jnana can flower in you. So that I think was a key takeaway just from my journeys. From a seeker's journey, I felt Bhagavan beautifully captured in this sloka the bridge, how Advaita can start to become a real experience and a being. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Wonderful, Mukul.
Very nice.
Excellent.
Very insightful
Excellent,
as
Mukul.
well. Very insightful as well.
Beautiful.
Really like
Very
that
insightful.
Jnana Varishta Bhakti that you mentioned, right? It's a wonderful.
And this bridge is also, he's definitely bridging into 12 and beyond.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's a
Correct.
very nice, beautiful aha.
Yeah, I think someday somebody should make a summary of Bhagavad Gita as to how to do a presentation.
Yeah, and Mukku and Subbu, you were referring back and forth, right? Like a lot of different things that are brought together. Like, but every chapter he does that cumulatively. So
Right.
so Swami C says somewhere in chapter 11 descriptions, he says exactly this, what you mentioned, Guntax, like how you should do a presentation. And he also says how these threads are being weaved slowly, like really intricately weaved. And he brings in, inaction in action and all that in 11.55, which he spoke in chapter 4. Then you went back to 3.27, it's just a phenomenal cloth that is being weaved. And everything comes together, obviously, finally. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And Mukul, today I really liked the way that you talked about the movement from Srishti Drishtivada to Drishti Srishtivada and then to Ajatavada being the ultimate truth. That was really beautiful. Well connected. Thank you.
Mukul,
That
you can
one,
post that
Swami
video.
SPG, is beautiful. That was a very clear video.
Yeah, please
Can you
share the
share
link.
that link in the group? I think
Yeah,
I've
I'll
not.
do that. Yes, I think
I've
somebody
not-
had maybe shared it once. I think I picked it
please.
from the. I'll do it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
Sakuma, you were saying something. Sorry.
You're muted.
You're
I
muted,
was
yeah.
saying the same thing that, if we can please share that video of Swami SPG. I was saying the same thing.
All right. Any other last comments for any of the speakers today?
Muku, I liked your imagery. It was very simple, but very, very nice.
Thank you.
Okay. So with
Sometimes we
that,
forget that ultimately it is that simple.
Correct.
So Rick, just on that, right? Really quick. I keep remembering you bringing it up that it is simple. It is you, and every time. And then I was reading chapter 11, and it's like Swami C is saying in bold capital letters, "I am incomprehensible." It's just it's a beautiful contrast. But ultimately, I think some of this Rupert Spira writings also that I'm reading, and I keep sending once in a while these screenshots. It's so beautiful how he's describing it, and it's like everything. It's like always these teachings, right? Unless you internalize it for yourself, it's not actually simple. So when I'm reading it, it's all so crystal clear. It's so beautiful. I immediately take a screenshot and send it to our group. But then I go and start reflecting on it. What did he say there? I mean, I can't just bring myself to understand it for myself. It's a long way, you know. But when you read it, it's so crystal clear. Anyway, just
7:32, and maybe we should just conclude with a prayer. Just a reminder once again, although Rick, you're the only person who said yes for next week. We apologize. We can't have the satsang next week. We will cancel it. And the following week, June 2nd, is the talk by this lady Janki ji. So please join in for the talk. And then we will start off chapter 12 on the week following that. That is June 9th. Okay? So with that, let's say the concluding prayer.
Hey, Guntak, sorry to interrupt. Real quick, when Dr. Santok joins us, will you share something so we'll come with questions, or how do you, or will you put some notes in the group?
So the homework for all of us is, if you're interested about what's her background, what she's spoken, she's got YouTube videos. Please go and watch whatever you want to watch. So I don't think that I'm going to share anything other than just introduce her, leave the floor for her, and based on what she talks, you can ask the question.
I think you can just see what has been already shared, the SPG discussion with him.
Oh, yes. That's the one. Okay, thanks.
Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you, everyone. Excellent chapter 11 revisions. We will see you next week.
Thank you.
Hari Om.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you.